You're listening to the Paranormal Peeps on the Darkcast Network. Come to the dark side of indie podcasts with the Darkcast Network.
We have cookies. Between the realm of the dead and the journeys of the living, join Josh, Jamie, and Elisa as they delve into the vast world of the paranormal and breathe life back into the history of the departed.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. I'm Josh.
I'm Jamie.
And I'm Elisa.
And we have got a fun episode for you guys today. It's unfortunately a little sad because only one of us has actually been there.
Take a guess who it was.
For her big 4-0.
Me.
It was Elisa.
I made my husband take me there for my 40th birthday.
Yeah, and it looked like an awesome trip.
It was. It was very fast moving. We went from one place to the next to the next. We even slept in our car for a night.
Yeah, I remember when you Marco told me about that. I told Josh, dude, they're sleeping in their car. Where? I don't know, off the side of the road.
By a bunch of sheep. I
Yep.
have no idea.
It's pretty. What does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
It was gorgeous out there.
It's all about where you're at in the moment.
Yep.
Nothing else.
I'd do it again.
Yeah, I've slept in my car, but nothing.
Not like that.
Not like
Not in
that.
Scotland. Come
No.
on.
So we are going to talk about the Drovers Inn.
Yes,
Yep.
we are. Elisa was there.
I did. And here's the thing. Okay. I have a little beef. So I planned my entire trip around Drovers Inn. And that was the first place that I got a reservation for. And it was the biggest reason for the Scotland trip. Was
Your
Drovers
most
Inn.
anticipated, it sounds like.
It was my most anticipated. And I looked on their website and went on and found where to get my room and la-di-da. And asking for my room, it says, do you want a room that has a shared bathroom or do you want your own bathroom? And I was like, well, I want my own bathroom.
Right.
If that's an option, I want my own bathroom.
I think most of us
Right?
would pick our own bathroom.
Yeah. Why would anyone want to share if they don't have to?
Right.
Exactly.
So, for all of you out there who ever plan on going to stay at Drovers Inn, pick the one with the shared bathroom. Because apparently when we got there, I was all excited, got all of my stuff, we're getting ready to go in, right? And the guy's like, yeah, you're in room, I think it was 201. And it's across the street.
What?
In these small buildings that we built.
So it wasn't
across the
even
street.
in the actual
Wasn't even in the
building.
I was ticked
Oh, I'd be
because
so upset.
nowhere on their website did it say that it was not in the building.
And it really should.
It should have. My husband went in through that whole thing looking to see if there was anything where I had made a mistake. Nothing. There was nothing in there to say. So if you want to stay in Drovers Inn, which, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go there because you really should. It's a beautiful place. Get the one with the shared bathrooms.
Yeah.
So I was actually starting to cry because my whole trip, and I knew this was a once-in-a-lifetime trip,
Yeah.
my whole trip was based around this. And to know I wasn't even going to get to stay in
It's heartbreaking.
was devastating.
Right.
And my husband even just told me the other day, he's like, I don't think I've ever seen you that devastated.
Oh.
And I was like, yeah, I don't think I have been. That was pretty bad. And so Alan tried his best to get us in there. He's like, but they were booked out.
Yeah, I imagine. Because there's not many rooms in the main building to begin
Yeah.
with.
And the whole point for me was to go sit in the room the whole night long.
Well, sure.
And I go and I literally cry myself over across the street into this makeshift, super crappy bedroom. It's real bad. The walls are thin. It's not great. You can see under the
Plywood
door.
boards.
Yeah.
Boards for the walls. Just
And it's
hear everything.
really thin, crappy carpet.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
no.
It wasn't. I would assume if you're going to build an addition, you build it up to standard, normal what people expect to stay in.
Well, yeah, you don't want the highland winds to come across there and blow your room down. Come on.
But it wasn't. It wasn't that great. Anyway, I got onto our bed and I cried myself to sleep.
Oh.
But while I was crying myself to sleep, this sounds terrible, right? I want you to feel my emotions. Alan was working with the people over at Drover's Inn inside and saying, like, look, she's a ghost hunter. This is what we've been basing our whole trip on. We're
Right.
staying inside for her to be able to ghost hunt. Is there any way that we can ghost hunt here? And so they felt so bad. And they were so nice, and they let us ghost hunt all the dining rooms and the hallways and upstairs and stuff. He's like, as long as you guys aren't super loud next to the doors
Right.
and wake people up, we don't care what you do, and we'll leave these doors open for you to be able to ghost
Oh my
hunt.
goodness.
So all the places that didn't have alcohol in it, like, I mean, they had their bar, so unfortunately
Sure.
we weren't able to go into like the dining room area.
Yeah, but that's understandable.
Which I totally get, because they
Yeah.
don't want anybody stealing any alcohol, right? They left everything open just for us.
That is so amazing. They're
Yeah.
very accommodating.
Yeah.
And if they would have had a room available, I know they would have got
guarantee
you in
I
it.
would have gotten it.
That's right.
It was just something that they need to fix on their website. But anyway, so I woke up, eyes were swollen. Alan's like, we can go ghost hunt. And I think we started at their time. I think it was 10 or 11
Mhm.
o'clock.
Yeah.
And they closed all that down. And then we were able to go in and ghost hunt for however long we wanted.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Alan is so sweet to do that
he was
for
very
you.
sweet to do that, because he really
He
saw
really knew you had
how
your heart
hard
set.
that was for me. Yeah, that
Aw.
was a tough one.
And did you get anything?
Did I get anything?
That's a silly question.
So the first part, we stayed into the right dining room. So there's 2 dining rooms. We put out my light strip that has
Tripwire.
It's a trip. They call it the tripwire.
Yes.
And they're all separate little EMF lights. It's like 12 feet long, right? Stretched it through that whole room. And mind you, these rooms are not big. Drover's Inn is so old. It's like one of the longest working inns in Scotland. We put it out, and I think we had it out for like an hour. And I'm listening and hoping something goes off. I've got my recorder going. I get nothing. And then Alan's like, well, why don't we go into the other room? I put it in there, set everything up. And while I was setting up, I have a man on my recorder. I get a man that whispers and then takes a deep breath into the recorder. Now, mind you, the bar is still going on, but I have 2 doors closed in between, and it's kind of muffly in there. It's not loud.
right.
But
It's
this
kind of
was
muted.
like- yeah. And every once in a while in the recorder, you pick up a little bit of the chatter that's going on. You can't understand anything, right? But when somebody breathes into the recorder, it's very distinct, because you can tell it's really close.
Oh, of course.
You can tell when there's someone's up close talking to it
it's
versus far away.
obvious. Yeah.
So I did get a man whispering into it and then taking a deep breath into the recorder. And then I turned the Ovulus on, and it said the word drunk. And
Well, that's
Well, that would make
Pretty
sense. Yeah.
I know,
It fits.
right? And then it said baby. Now, mind you, I don't like to necessarily learn all of the stories of the places that I go to. All I really want to know is how haunted it is, or
Mhm.
like how old it is, and if it's active, like that. So then I can find out if what I get goes with the stories
yeah.
that we get, or that I read into afterwards.
That's a good way to do it, because then you're not influenced in any way.
Right. So, and then it said the word baby. So then Alan read to me the story of the ghost child, which we will tell you later. And while he was reading it, I saw a shadow behind him, like a head, dip out, like it peeked out, and then went back in. And I was trying to debunk it. Like, was that like a car driving by, because there's the road is like right there.
Yeah, it's close.
It's so close
Yeah.
to the inn. It's right there. I'm like, well, maybe it's the car's headlights going by, but it went in the opposite direction. And so I was like, oh, okay, well then. Then Alan read the story of Annabelle, and the Ovilus said 40. And I was like, yes, I'm here for my 40th birthday.
That's
How did you
awesome.
know?
How did you know? Did you hear me bawling about it? Like, so anyways, that's pretty much just what I got on while we were there. We did end up going on the stairs and putting the lights up the stairs and doing all that stuff, but we really didn't get anything other than when we were in that one room.
Right. So it sounds like it was overall a pretty quiet night.
It was pretty
Yeah.
quiet. But what we did get was relevant,
Yes.
which I would rather have
Very little,
Very
but have it
little,
be
but-
relevant. Yes.
than get just a bunch of equipment going off.
That's
and
random.
It's not,
Yeah.
it doesn't have a rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah.
Right. Ghost Hunter Gold is what you got.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome. That it shows you the place is haunted. Now, the interesting thing is it's listed as the most haunted pub in Scotland.
Yes.
Right.
Which I think it could be, given how old it is. I mean, just because it's old doesn't mean there's ghosts there, right?
Right.
Well, right.
But the fact that it's always been an inn, and it's always been like a pub and a place for you to relax. There's stories behind it, even though
Yeah.
Lots of stories.
yeah.
So let's get into a little bit of the history of the area and the inn. And I think the interesting thing is a lot of the history coincides with the hauntings, at least why they're there in those pieces. I think the thing that I found the most interesting is the very first account of humanity being in that area was 69 to 96 AD.
Isn't that crazy?
That's so old.
And I couldn't even
We
imagine.
don't know that in the United States. Like
No.
that age, we do not know that.
No, we do not.
So it was actually when the Romans invaded Scotland. And they had built a double row of defensive forts in Loch Lomond, which is basically the whole area is basically considered Loch Lomond.
Right.
So Loch Lomond is a very ancient loch that was formed
And a loch is like
a lake.
a lake.
So it was formed when 4 individual lochs merged into one. And so there's hundreds of individual islands inside the loch as well.
There's so many lochs over there. It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
And then we move forward a little bit and we get into the early Middle Ages, which is like the 12th century. And this is when the Welsh actually were in the area, and they had a kingdom called Strathclyde. And the capital was Dumbarton, which meant the fort of the Britons.
Okay.
And then in the 8th century, there was an Irish missionary named Saint Kentigern. Oh my gosh. Saint Kentigernna. And she settled on an island there. And it's rumored that she actually set up a nunnery. And the Vikings invaded the land.
Of course,
Loch
why
Lomond.
not? Everybody else is moving on through.
Right?
So who's next?
That was under King Haakon, and that was part of the Battle of Largs. So, I mean, you're talking the Romans, the Celts, or the Welsh, the Vikings, the Irish,
Yeah.
All of the above?
all of the above.
What about the Americans, huh?
Just a parade
Yeah,
coming
we're
on
not
through.
We go there now.
I know.
The other interesting thing is the loch was a major smuggling route for whiskey,
Always with the alcohol.
right?
I know. Why do they always feel like they need to smuggle it
I
everywhere?
don't know. Was life really that sucky?
I mean, Why were they smuggling it?
I don't know. That's the question. I have no idea. I wasn't there.
You weren't?
No, I don't know why. I should have been, but I
You
wasn't.
should have been there.
I don't know what happened.
So they said they would, on a moonlit night, many a galley would be rowed down the length of the loch, right under the noses of the government exercise men waiting on dry land.
Oh, well, the word government, there you go.
Right?
Enough said.
And the area was also, for centuries, part of what they called the Wild McGregor's land. And these guys were cattle rustlers and brigands.
What are brigands?
Thieves.
Isn't that what a cattle rustler is?
Cattle
Basically,
rustlers.
thief of cows.
Yeah, but these would also, they would steal from people. So the most famous one of the McGregors was Rob Roy, who earned the nickname the Robin Hood of Scotland.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that's probably a good.
It's not accurate, I don't
It's
think.
definitely not accurate
No.
in that avenue. So he was actually a cattle rustler by trade as well, but he went a little bit further. He extracted money from people in exchange for offering them protection from the thieves.
So from him
Yes.
and his band of merry thieves.
Yes. So in the early
Comes full circle.
right? So in the early 18th century, Rob Roy had established a flourishing protection racket, charging farmers an average 5% of their annual rent
Whoa.
to ensure that their cattle remained safe.
Genius.
Yes. And he had complete control over all the raiders in the area.
Of course he did.
So, of course, they paid him and nothing happened because
They were either
in charge of
really
them all.
Pretty.
they were either really dim and paid him thinking he was giving them protection, or they knew his racket and figured they better pay him or suffer the
I
consequences.
bet that's more what it was.
well,
Me too.
I think so because they said anyone who did not pay,
Yeah.
he stripped them of all of their stuff.
Yep. And they knew this.
Ain't no,
Oh man.
ain't no Robin.
No. So apart from leading a raid in the lowland parish of Kippen in 1691, his early days were spent peacefully as a drover. So he knew the cattle trade.
Yeah.
So in 1712, he had let's just call it a bad year. The cattle market was kind of down, probably
Yeah,
because he kept
because-
stealing from it.
Yeah, but didn't like sheep, didn't they become more profitable at a certain point over cattle?
Yeah. Yeah, they did. And so he decided that he had other people investing, like other chieftains, had invested $1,000 into his stuff. And so instead of being a good cattle drover, he became a cattle thief. So he went from upstanding citizen to vagabond.
Yeah.
So unfortunately for Mr. Rob Roy, his end came in 1717 when he was captured by the Duke of Atholia.
Yeah, what'd they do to him?
They tried to lock him up, but he escaped.
Oh, he's an escape artist too.
Yeah. He was then imprisoned again, and he was being transported to Barbados in 1727. So, like, not even somewhere on the island. Like, you're going to the Caribbean.
Oh, darn.
Yeah.
It's a vacation spot.
But he got pardoned by King George I. And so, like, he was able to, like, settle down and live a peaceful, law-abiding life after that.
Figures.
Right? So that brings us into the lovely Drover's Inn, which was built in 1705.
Yes.
The reason why it's called the Drover's Inn is because as the cattlemen, who were called drovers,
Mhm.
would bring their cattle from the highlands down the loch to the lowlands, they needed a place to stay. And so they would stay at the Drover's Inn.
Yes.
And that's how it got its name. The interesting thing is this is not the only Drover's Inn in the area.
No.
There are still several that are still standing today. But this one just happens to be called the Drover's Inn.
Yes.
And of course, as it would be, because Mr. Rob Roy was doing his fun thievery days back then, he actually stayed at the Drover's Inn.
Surprise, surprise.
Right? Now, the other interesting thing is that the Drover's Inn is actually technically in a town. Now, I don't know, how big was this town when you were there?
I didn't realize it was a town. I think there's like one road in.
One road out.
I don't know. It's like, it's hard to see where towns start and end over there. It's more, unless it's a big city, the houses are so spread out and they're far and few in between. And it's a lot of sheep farming.
So, needless to say, this is not a big town then.
No.
It's very small.
No, yeah.
So, it's actually in a town called Inver Arnon. And there's a canal that runs behind the Drover's Inn. Now, this was actually constructed because there was a lot of trade going up and down the river to the lock. And so they built this canal to have boats be able to come in and actually rest in town.
Oh, interesting.
It smells really bad when you go back there. I'm just telling you.
Like, really bad, huh?
Yeah, it smells terrible. Not only do they put all their garbage back there, but it's like the smell of nasty, wet
sewagey.
I don't know. It's like, you know, when you're at a lake and the water goes down.
It stinks.
And it smells really bad. That's kind of like, it was nasty.
Ugh.
It's like that plus garbage.
That plus garbage.
Cold, wet
Hot
garbage. Hot? No, it's got to be cold and wet.
Cold, wet,
Garbage.
nasty garbage.
Not like Elisa hot garbage.
So the last thing to know is what you see today isn't the original inn. Like, not
No,
all
it's
of
not.
it. So
No.
most of it's there. Most of it's the original, but they did add on to the left end. They added a couple wings on in either between 1825, 1830, and like 1853.
Right.
That makes it sound like it's huge.
Yeah, I know. It makes it sound like it's massive.
But it's really not.
No. But imagine, though, like, without those add-ons,
Yeah.
I mean, this thing would be a third of the size that it actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be tough. But like Elisa said, you can still go there. You can still stay the night there.
Yeah.
They actually have live music on Friday nights.
Yep.
Yeehaw.
And when you go and eat there, the scenery and the ambiance of it is so, so cool. So it kind of feels like you're in this little dungeon. And they had us sitting in a table by the fire. And it's like they go in and they stoke the fire. They put in the logs and like they're dressed as like these old timey 1800s workers.
Nice.
That, you know, like it's really, really cool how they do it. And the chairs that we were sitting in look like mini thrones.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it
so
was
cool.
We had like our own little throne. Like it was really, really cute. And it's like it's dark. You know, the food is stinking delicious. It was amazing. But it's so fun. That was probably the best place that for scenery and ambiance and all of that to eat all together was just really, really
It
cool.
sounds amazing,
Yeah.
honestly. Sounds like you're kind of back in the olden day and you really feel like you step back in time.
Oh, you do.
It's like
Yeah.
a 17th century Cracker Barrel.
Right?
I would agree with that. I actually would agree with that.
But this place is haunted, and which is why we're talking about it. So what are some of the ghostly encounters that have happened in this?
So I will start off with one that happened in the late 18th century. So in the winter of 1792, the year of which later became known as the Year of the Sheep, a young crofting family were forcibly removed from where they lived, and their landlords, having decided that the land would turn more of a profit if it was used for sheep farming, and that was what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Moving over to the sheep. With nowhere to live and little money or means to support their young child, the family had no option other than to head south in hopes of creating a new life for themselves in the Scottish lowlands, or maybe even immigrate to one of the new worlds. On their long journey south in the winter months, one night they got caught up in a heavy snowstorm. They had been trying to reach shelter and safety at the Drover's Inn. However, with the visibility very poor and the family being exhausted from their journey, they took the wrong path somewhere along their way. Their journey ends in tragedy, with the family freezing to death while wandering the land, desperately trying to get back on track that leads to the Drover's Inn. Over the years, there have been many accounts of people witnessing the young family wandering the land in the winter months. Trying to find shelter on more than one occasion, they have even appeared to have arrived at their destination that faithful night. One account goes that a couple who were staying recently in the Drover's Inn in room 2 woke during the night with a cold shiver, only to find that the young family were standing shivering at the foot of their bed, their breath visible in the now freezing air, the young boy waving up to the couple as if he was happy to finally found what they were searching for.
Although I would say, like, if you wake up in the middle of the night and there's a family at the foot of your bed.
Right?
Well, at least it sounds like an intelligent haunting, because it said the little boy was like shivering but waving at the people that were in the bed. Like he was waving at them like, we finally made it.
We made it. Look
We're
at
here. You know?
You want to hang out?
So it sounds like at least the one spirit was intelligent.
Yeah.
And not just residual of some sort.
But I don't know. I always picture, when I think of this story, I picture of like this family surrounding the bed. They're like blue lips.
Shivering, wet.
Yeah, wet, shivering.
You know, because they're thawing out.
Yeah. They're dripping. And then
they're
there's
watching
this little
you.
boy. Hi!
Yeah. But what a creepy feeling, though, because you're in the bed, you're
Right.
warm, you're dry, you're comfortable, and they're standing around your bed looking at you all shivering and wet.
Yeah.
And it's like,
That would be, honestly, I don't care who you are. That would be terrifying.
it would be terrifying.
Yeah. That would be.
Yeah.
That would be tough.
Yeah. I would feel bad.
Right?
I would feel so bad. I'd be like, you want me to move?
Can I get the fire going for you?
Yeah, I'll stoke the fire a bit more. Throw a couple more logs on there.
Want to crawl in? We'll all be warm.
We'll all be warm together. So another one is about a little girl who drowned. In the early century, there was a young girl that stayed nearby. It doesn't say that she stayed at the Drover's Inn, and I don't really know what else was nearby back then. So
Probably not much like there is
not
now.
much, right?
Yeah, it's probably about the same.
But she'd been playing with, her beloved doll that she had, and the doll's name, of all names, was Annabelle.
I swear that's all the doll's names.
If you know, you know. And most of you know.
Apparently it doesn't matter like what country you live in.
It's Annabelle
That's
all the
And
way.
it happens to be a Raggedy Ann doll. Not even sure how that's even possible.
But she was playing with her doll in what was normally the, shallow, placid waters, of the river. And it runs just behind the Drover's Inn. On the day earlier, though, there had actually been a lot of rainfall that had happened. And so the river had swelled and it had much stronger undercurrents because of the swelling. So Annabelle, her doll, her doll Annabelle fell into the swollen river. And tragically, the young girl got swept away trying to rescue her doll.
Ugh.
Oh, sad.
And by the time that anyone had actually even taken notice that the girl was gone, she had actually perished in the water. They sent out a search party, they figured out she'd been swept away. They sent out a party to search for her, like local farmers, her family, some of the cattle drovers even, helped search for her. And eventually they found her downstream, but it was actually obviously too late to save her. So they carried her body to the drover's inn and they laid her on the bed in room 6. She stayed there while the family obviously grieved and prepared for her burial at a nearby graveyard. But it says in the years that have passed since that occurrence, that many guests that have actually slept and stayed in room 6 have actually been woken through the night having felt a small icy cold and wet body next to them in the bed.
Ew.
Like, can you imagine?
Nope.
Feeling icy cold, wet and soggy, like an actual body next to you.
It'd be terrifying.
That'd be terrifying. So they actually even say there have also been sightings of the doll Annabelle, and they say that she's been searching for her owner, who she sadly never reunited with. The doll part, bleh.
So now you got a ghost doll.
I mean, ghost doll, possessed doll, I don't know. And knowing what we know about the Annabelle movies, I don't want to know.
Nope.
Right.
I'm good.
So I have another report from room 6. So on the night of Friday, the 21st of October, this guy and his girlfriend made a stop off at Drover's on their way to the Isle of Mule. And they stayed at Drover's Inn many times, but it was the first time for his girlfriend. They stayed in room 6 and had a bite to eat at the bar, and then they went to their room. And at some stage in the middle of the night, she woke up and asked if he could see the flickering lights moving around in the room. But he was still half asleep, and he told her she must be looking at the flashlight that was on the smoke detector. She asked him to look again, which he did, and to his surprise, there were numerous tiny white points of light dancing around in midair. At any one time, he could estimate that they would see between 10 and 20 of these lights. Although they were small, the white lights were really intense. They seemed to move randomly, appearing and then disappearing. The room was pitch black, with no other light source which could have been reflecting to cause what they saw. They watched the lights for a long time, unable to explain what was causing them. The best he could come up with was that they were some sort of firefly, but that was discounted later when he asked the hotel staff if they had any fireflies in that area, and they didn't. The answer was no. So in a week and a half on, they still cannot give any rational explanation as to what they saw. Currently, the only explanation that they have is that they witnessed a number of orbs that are often seen in photographs, and they believe that some kind of supernatural manifestation happened.
I wonder if they saw fairy lights. And I say that because fairies have been reported actually in the forest around Loch Lomond.
Yeah.
Well, they even have things called the fairy pools that you can go to. Well, there are a bunch of pools in Scotland and little waterfalls that are called Anyway, so I'm just wondering if they have more of a belief in fairies.
Well, I know the Irish. I know the Irish do.
Well, so there was a gentleman who was writing a book in the 1760s, 1780s, somewhere in that category. And he disappeared before he could publish it because supposedly he was actually talking and communing with the fairies. And the story goes that the fairies were upset with him and they took him away because he disappeared and was never found.
Interesting.
So, like I said, I wonder if it kind of has that fairy-like thought to it.
So this one's actually from somebody that wrote in telling about her story. Didn't write into us. I don't know. She didn't leave her name or anything. So I really can't give her credit. So she says, so basically, she somehow managed to stay at one of the most haunted hotels in Scotland. And she actually only found out after she spent 2 nights alone in the so-called most haunted room. So a bit of a backstory. She says, I enjoy hiking and mountain walking, and there were a couple different hikes I wanted to do around Loch Lomond. So I decided to just make a weekend out of it and book a cute little hotel. Cue me to searching on a generic hotel finder website and found a super cute little hotel with great prices in a perfect location comes up. It's called the Drover's Inn. If anyone is interested, it has a great website talking about the history, plus information on its ghosts, which now I know about, but at the time I didn't. All this happened in November, so it gets dark around 4 p.m. here at that time of year. When I arrived, it was already dark, maybe about 5:30 p.m. I'd driven about 4 hours that day, and I was super tired, so I just checked in and went straight up to my room. They gave me room 6, which now I know is apparently their most haunted room.
Oh, darn.
The hotel was basically empty because it was off season, so maybe the staff gave me that room as a joke to see how long the 20-year-old lassie would last.
And she's all by herself?
And she's all by herself.
Oh, lucky duck.
I know, right? Like, we're envious of this.
I'm
Other
sure
people,
she wasn't at the time.
No. I think there were only like 6 cars in the car park, and I presume most of all those would be the staff's vehicles. At this point, it was just a normal, nice hotel. No bad vibes whatsoever, and I was enjoying snacks and Netflix. The first night, nothing really happened. Maybe I slept through all the ghosties shenanigans because I was so tired. One thing I did note, though, was I could hear people walking up and down the hallway outside the rooms every 15 minutes or so.
That would be annoying.
That would, yeah. Especially if it's not of the ghost type, right?
Okay, so me having stayed there, not in the building, but I was inside until about 2 a.m.
Right.
They're gone. Like they
so
clean up.
It's not the staff.
No, it's not the staff. The staff literally leave as soon as the bar is done. They clean up
and they're out.
And they're out. There's nobody there.
Nice. It's an old building, so nearly every step you take makes some type of creaking sound. I'm a nosy person, so after the first hour or so, I started checking who was walking up and down the halls. Obviously, no one was there, but I just thought maybe the sound was coming from somewhere else in the building, or maybe an adjacent hallway or room. Back to Netflix I went. Like I said, after that, literally nothing else happened that night. I still had no clue about the paranormal history of this hotel, so that wasn't even on my mind. The next day, I woke up really early, about 6 a.m. I got my stuff ready for a day's worth of hiking around. I'm always super careful with packing my kit because in Scotland, as this time of year, you need to be really careful as the weather can change dramatically in a millisecond. Like, I literally have a checklist. Maybe a bit of overkill, but I check as I go. I had already checked all the things off when I was packing back at home, but now I was rechecking everything just to make sure. Somehow, my hand warmers were missing. You know, those little gel things you squeeze and they get really hot? Vanished. I hadn't unpacked the night before, so I just thought I had somehow forgotten them at home. They weren't vital, so I went out walking anyways.
Maybe it was the family that
Yeah,
came back that
trying
were
to
freezing
thaw
cold. They're like, hey, we need those hand warmers.
Trying to unfreeze their phalanges. I got back to the hotel just before it got dark and went to my room to warm up. This is the point where I start suspecting something creepy is going on. I walk in and my hand warmers are laying on the pillow like they lay chocolates on a pillow in fancy hotels. Big point. This happened during COVID, so cleaners don't come into the room during your stay. If they did, I would think a cleaner did this, but my bed was still haphazardly made like how I did it, and the bin was full still. This low-key terrified me and definitely gave me chills, but it wasn't malicious, and if anything, the ghost was helping me. I went for a long meal to avoid going back to my room. This is the spicy part. again, I went to bed kind of early, mildly scared, but nothing too horrible. I was still clinging to the idea that a lovely cleaner had come into the room, found my mysterious hand warmers and placed them on my pillows. I woke up at exactly 2:33 a.m. because I looked at my phone to seemingly nothing. It was eerily quiet. It had been kind of windy that day, but I couldn't hear anything except myself. Just for context, the bed is like a 4-poster bed with a little short curtain around the top. I was lying facing the window, and I felt something sit on the other side of the bed facing the door. Nope. My first thought was there was someone in the room, but it was so quiet I think I would have been able to hear a person breathing. The dang curtains for the windows were slightly open, and I think that was me that did that. And I could see the reflection of me in bed because of the light coming under the door from the outside hallway. But it was blurry because I'm kind of blind. I could see no one was behind me, but I could feel someone sitting there, like I was sliding into the dent they were making.
Oh my goodness.
As I was so focused on this empty space, I didn't notice the little curtains around the top of the bed were moving. Nope, she says. Like I said, this is an old stone building. Sure, there are drafts, but not enough of a one to make the curtains move this much. And there is no air conditioning or air heating to make any wind. I lay there for what felt like an eternity until I found the courage to turn the lights on. When I turned them on, I still felt the person or thing there, except this time the reflection in the window was clearer and it showed a dark shadow sitting behind me. More nopes.
Whoa.
I looked at it for what felt like 10 hours, but was probably only 10 seconds. Then I blinked and it vanished. The dent in the bed vanished, and I just lay there till I had more courage to move. I did eventually put on Netflix and just sat there with every single light on in the room until morning. Nothing happened after that except the footsteps in the hallway outside again, which is strange but slightly explainable. The dark shadow, however, isn't. I was definitely fully awake during all of this. I had went to sleep around 8:30 p.m., so by the time it was 2 a.m., I had already slept about 6 hours and was feeling refreshed and everything. I checked out probably looking slightly disheveled and decided to search up the hotel's actual official website when I got back home. This is when I found out that not only had I stayed in one of the most haunted hotels in Scotland, but also I stayed in this most haunted room. I'm glad that I didn't know it was haunted beforehand, because then when I did experience what I did, I would have just played it off as my mind playing tricks on me, because I already knew the place had its reputation and would have been expecting it. Anyways, if you got this far down my rambling story, thank you. I'm already planning to go back to that hotel because the food and the vibe is amazing. Plus, bonus, ghost friends. So, but could you imagine?
No, and here's the thing. How do they know when you're going to blink?
It's a good question.
That's a great question, because a lot of people say that. Like, I stared at it and then I
Blink and then
I blink
they're gone.
once and they're gone.
How is that?
Just like in a blink of an eye.
Well, if you
gone.
think about it, blinks are really fast.
They're really fast.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know.
And we blink about 20 times a minute.
I believe it. Some people more.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, blink, blink,
Blink, blink,
Yeah.
blink, 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 blink. That's
You
all
never
wanna
think
do.
of how often your actual eyes are fluttering, but
No. But I mean, even for us, I think that would be a bit unnerving.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you feel someone sit, like I felt somebody sit on a bed I was in before, and I was the only one in the room.
they have the
Same.
same thing.
I think a lot of people have, but, she turns on the light,
Mhm.
sees more clearly her reflection, but sees a dark shadow sitting there
But
on the bed.
But through the reflection, like
Only through the reflection.
that's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like looking at a TV screen that's off and seeing something standing behind you.
Nope.
Yeah,
Right?
See, that's like one. It's like it's all horror movie special sauce, and like that's like some of the most terrifying things even
Sure.
today. for me is looking in a reflective surface in the dark,
Seeing your
thinking that I'm going to see something behind me.
right, seeing your
so
reflection.
you're saying you never did Bloody Mary?
No.
We never did either. We
Really?
did light as a feather, stiff as a board.
See, I never did that. I'd never heard of that until I was older.
Yeah.
But I used to do Bloody Mary all the time.
No, yeah. But this lady's experience, I mean, she's planning to go back, so
It didn't terrify her that bad.
no. I think now it's probably hit her more curiosity now.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
I think a lot of people, and I know that we have experiences and you want more. You're like, you have more questions, you want more.
Yeah.
And like now she's prepared.
Now she's prepared. She knows the history. She knows that that's the most haunted room at the Drover's Inn. Hopefully, if
How-
she goes back, she writes about it because
How
I'd love to
stinking
hear.
lucky that she gets to be the only one there in the most haunted room.
Well, and think about this though. Do you think maybe that whoever that spirit was knew that she had no idea of the history or anything, or that it was haunted, and so the spirit decided, hey,
Well,
I'm going to go visit this person.
this is also what I think. With it supposedly being one of the most haunted places, I'm sure plenty of people have come in and just ghost hunted the crap out of that place.
Oh, I'm sure.
So when you get someone who's unsuspecting
Mhm.
and not aware, and they're not paying attention to that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
because they're watching. It's not like they're not there. Just because
Yeah.
the lights are on doesn't mean they're not there.
They're just
exactly.
always there.
So I'm sure that they were like, okay, this one doesn't get it.
Let's show her.
Let's make her get it.
I mean, I think if I were a spirit and someone came into a place where I was at and I knew that they had no idea of like the spirit world or anything like that, I would probably be curious about them
Oh, for sure.
and be like, I'm going to go check them out. I'm going to let them experience something and I'm going to see what their takeaway is. I would so do that. I would be that person.
oh,
I'd be that
definitely would
spirit.
too.
Yeah. Pick on the ones that don't believe.
I wasn't going to pick on them. I just let them have an experience
Call 'em-
and
that's why they're the fresh meat.
fresh meat. They're bait.
Yep.
Let's see how they react. Let's see what they think.
Be so much fun.
It would. It so would.
Okay, so when we go, we have to stay in room 6 and book it like a year in advance
Right?
Well, I think-
and for
I
multiple
think
nights.
we find the off season
and go during the
and we just
off-season.
book 3 rooms. Because the interesting thing about the rooms is most of the rooms are twin beds.
Yeah.
The one room that
I'll
has
sleep on the floor.
there's one room that has a big bed.
I know, but I'll sleep on the floor. I just want to be there.
I know.
Yeah, I don't care.
We'll just get 3 rooms for a week. It'd be perfect.
Oh, that'd be kind of cool too.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
Each in our own room to investigate. Oh, that'd be.
And if
I'm
you're
in.
off season,
Right?
you're
I'm
going to have the
in.
place to yourself.
I'm in.
Me too. Okay, so this is about a ghostly child, and this is from their website, on the Drover's Inn website. It says, a lady recently stayed at the Drover's Inn one Thursday night with her daughter and friends for a birthday treat. A few days later, she emailed wondering if we could tell them who the little girl in the pink dress was in the photograph they'd taken on the stairs. She said she was not with her party, and they didn't recall seeing any children at the hotel that night. Her daughter, who took the photograph, swears the little girl was not there when she took the photo on the staircase with her mobile phone. They were totally spooked out by the photograph, but felt sure we'd be able to give them an explanation. Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately not, though there were no children staying at the hotel that evening, nor any children visiting. Spooky.
Yeah, that is spooky though. But it makes you wonder. Little girl in pink. Like,
Yeah.
she's not staying at the hotel. Nobody's seen any little girl in pink. None of it.
I'm guessing it's the gal who drowned, the little girl who drowned.
See, that's what I wonder.
It could be. Maybe it's like one and the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it's her doll, Annabelle.
Please no. Don't let it be that. Okay, so this one says it's a funny account at the Drover's Inn. So I haven't read this one, so let's see what's so funny about it. You know, we told the story of the little girl who fell into the river out back and drowned.
Yeah.
Right.
her
And they
doll,
put her
Annabelle.
with her doll, Annabelle, and they put her up in room 6. So apparently her name was Rebecca. So people obviously have reported feeling a tiny cold and wet body slide into bed with them as they're sleeping. They begin with a seance and they, to contact Rebecca, and they ask her to join them and to try and communicate with them. They ask her to move the candle flame, and the candle flickers.
Cool.
Okay. They said we asked her to move the flame again, and yet again it flickers. Then this guy says his girlfriend, in full clairvoyant mode, says ominously, "It's not Rebecca." Okay, yeah, this isn't good. I don't know how this is going to be funny, but let's keep going. Who is it? I urgently whisper. She tells me that it's 3 old women, and they're not letting any other spirits through. They're here to protect me from you. They're suspicious and don't trust you, she tells me. And the boyfriend goes, what'd I do now? I explained to the 3 ghostly ladies that my intentions to my girlfriend are totally honorable and that I am a gentleman and they have no need to mistrust me. The candle flickers again once, then everything goes quiet. We wait another half an hour, but nothing else happens. We retire to bed with our 3 spectral chaperones presumably having departed and having a comfortable and uneventful night. I wake in the morning, still slightly spooked and vaguely concerned that whatever I try on my girlfriend, there will be 3 ghost ladies looking on disapprovingly from the other side. Well, so that kind of put a kibosh on his weekend plans,
Yes,
I think.
And future plans.
I mean, 3 old women disapproving.
That's too funny.
That
Watching
is-
over you, making sure you stay gentlemanly.
But they think they're talking to Rebecca, the little girl that drowns, and then they find out they're talking to 3
Old
Three old
ladies.
cranky old ladies. Like 3 prudes. Oh, no, you don't. Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so this next one is from over 300 years ago, when cattle drovers regularly stopped off at the inn, and on their way south to the cattle markets, one particular young drover called Angus was resting his cattle for the night. After a long and tiresome trek from the highlands, he was glad for some rest and enjoyed the hospitality offered to him. It could be said that he overindulged because the following day he woke up later than planned, only to find that the rival clan members, upon seeing the night before young Angus sampling the many ales and malts on offer, had made off with his cattle in the middle of the night. With no cattle or bag of crowns and shillings in their place, young Angus had no option but to go back to the Highland chieftain that he was delivering the cattle for and explain his loss. The Highland chieftain was known to be ruthless and unforgiving, and on hearing this news made a point of slaughtering poor Angus's family and young sweetheart, then banishing Angus from the clan in dishonor. With nowhere for Angus to go, he roamed the Highlands for months, planning on how he would exact his revenge on the rival clan members that had stolen his cattle on that fateful night. Eventually, his rage led Angus back to the Drovers' Inn, where the original crime had taken place. On seeing members from the rival clan, he hid in waiting for his moment to take his revenge. However, a member of the rival clan had spotted him earlier and forewarned his fellow thieves of Angus's hiding place. In the cold of the night, they soon set about Angus and murdered him in cold blood by hanging him from an old tree behind the inn and bleeding him like the cattle they had stolen before. Over the years, many people have reported seeing and hearing Angus wandering the Drovers' Inn late at night, screaming in pain, searching for the thieves, and to have his revenge.
I mean, it would make sense.
It would. Well, here's what's interesting, though, is we found no stories on Mr. Poor Angus.
We did not. But how many people have gone there, experienced something, and have not, like,
put it on the
wrote
internet.
about and put it on the internet.
Yeah.
Well, I would imagine a few.
But who knows? Maybe it was that black figure that was in the room.
Right.
Could be.
Because, I mean, that black figure was all by himself.
Mm-hmm. Just sitting on the other side of the bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if it wasn't actually Mr. Rob.
Robbery.
Yeah, Rob Roy that did it. Because he was known for cattle thievery and doing harsh things.
Yeah,
I mean, possibility, right?
Yeah.
very well could have been.
Yeah.
And the one story I found on about that was very, very similar, but it said that the cattle thieves actually helped supply him with alcohol.
Well, and that's what it kind of said in her story. He was sampling all the ales that they offered.
Mm-hmm. And they were offering him, he was taking them all.
Yeah.
He was just buying it, just
They were just
partaking.
like-
And they're watching, and they're
Yeah.
like, all right.
He's drunk
There you
enough.
go.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just sounds like the Rob Roy mentality.
Yes, it does.
I wonder how long that went on for.
His thievery
Mm-hmm.
to 27, so
Well,
12,
just thievery like that in general in that
Oh.
area.
probably a long time. Until like Law and Order came about.
Yeah, because
Or
back
the clans were gone.
well,
Yeah.
back then there was really no law on taking someone else's cattle. It wasn't actually deemed to be unlawful.
Well, and how do you prove it?
Well, exactly.
But
Like nowadays, we have tags.
Yeah,
that we put on our-
brands.
brands, and that we put on our cattle.
yeah.
Even then, that don't really stop a
But-
lot of people.
No.
But
But yeah, I mean, it was different then, right? Because the clans themselves were like their own little governments and their own little,
They were their groups, their own
they were their own groups. And so
Mhm.
if there was another clan, they didn't really associate with them. They thought they were against them anyway. And so it was fair game to take another clan's stuff. And if it's your clan's cattle,
Mhm.
it's fair game. All of that stuff becomes fair game until the clans were no more.
So we have a more recent ghost story. Now, this doesn't give a date. Like how recent this is, I don't know. It doesn't say.
Yeah.
But it's called George.
George.
So next time, if we all go, we have to say hi to George.
Yes, we do.
Got it.
Okay, so George was a regular at the inn in life and now obviously in death. He's actually been witnessed a lot in the bar area from what this says. And it says his ashes are kept in the bar as a touching gesture to a much loved patron.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's
Yeah.
all it says. So,
And I didn't even see it.
And-
yeah.
And that's what makes me wonder, because you were in the one dining room, which was adjacent to the bar.
Yeah,
Yes.
and this is the actual bar
And so-
that his ashes.
Well, I wonder if George didn't come over, and that's why you got drunk
Oh.
on the Ovulus.
Yeah.
Oh. Maybe.
Very well could have been.
That's a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have been cool if you got a name that said George on the Ovulus.
And then
That would've been,
drunk.
like, perfect. Or drunk George.
Or
That
George
would've been-
Ashes.
yeah.
Yeah. Anything, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would have been way cool.
So honestly, like, this place sounds like an amazing place to go visit.
I think just given its age, I mean, come on, 1705.
Yeah, it's 320 years old.
Yeah. I think just to visit a place that has that sort of age behind it
It's
in
so fun.
itself would be amazing. Kind of transports you back to the time,
It does. And they have really old photos of people there, and you can walk around and see all the, like, they have some displays of like really old stuff, and you're like, dang. Like,
Oh.
how cool would it be to stay there and be in,
in the
that
actual
place?
building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like, I just think of that lady who stayed there all by herself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, you could have the run of that place.
Yeah.
It
So the
would've
key
been
is
so
go in
fun.
November.
Right?
Go in the off season.
It would be really cold.
Yeah, but if you're brave, ask for room 6.
Well, I wonder if the rooms got fireplaces or something to heat them.
I'm sure they have something.
I wouldn't know.
She says
All I know is
bitterly.
all I know is you have to share a bathroom. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the one thing, like, it's funny because I read some TripAdvisor reportings from the place. And they weren't very good.
Well, what do people expect? This building dates back to 1705.
Yeah.
Okay,
See,
and they kept a lot of it very much the way it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so
you should go into a place like that knowing that it's going to be
Rustic at best.
very rustic. You're going to
Yes.
hear things. It's going to be thin walls.
creaky floors.
It's not like they had everything, insulated and stuff back in the day.
It's
they didn't.
not like today.
You're going there for
the history
and for
the experience.
like all that it comes with,
Yeah.
all of the old ancient stuff. I mean, they had phones, they have actual outfits of generals hanging up.
Oh, that's
Like,
amazing.
They're old stuff.
That is awesome. So there's a lot of history there too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course.
Do they have the? I saw reports that they had a lot of taxidermy in there too. Do they still have the taxidermy stuff?
Oh, they totally do. Yes.
Oh,
they
Lisa's
do.
going to have to post some of these pictures when this episode goes up.
Yeah.
She's got some cool pictures.
Yeah. There was a cool place, though, I have to say. So in the dining room, they have it decked out very Scottish, right? They've got swords, they've got shields, and their fireplaces. Everything is wood and rustic, right?
Sounds like my kind of place.
Right. And they have this cute little cove right in the middle that has its own little table in it.
Oh,
Isn't that fun? And
that's awesome.
it was cool because we're staying. So if you can picture this rectangle room,
Mm-hmm.
and then on the front of it, towards the front of the house or the inn is where that little insert where that table is.
Yeah.
And I'm on this back left corner next to the fireplace. So I can totally see this little cove, right? And that whole time, Alan's like, okay, put your vibes out. And I'm like, there's totally something in that little room right there that is watching me, knowing that I know that it's there. It was neat. It was really cool.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I was really hoping that we would have been able to get in contact with that spirit
Sure.
later that night, which maybe that's the one that was making all my stuff go off, but I don't know.
Yeah, and you got to think the spirits there probably don't come across somebody like you very often
No.
that can sense them there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably very new for them as well.
Well, and it was male, and it did feel like, you can see me.
Shocked, surprised.
Even though I really couldn't see them, but
but you knew.
I can sense. I knew that they're there.
Yeah.
So and I was
Wow.
like, yes, I do. As a matter of fact,
I would just
do
be
you want
like,
to come and sit with chat with me tomorrow or tonight?
I'd be telling them, go spread it. Tell all your friends.
I know.
Get all your ghost
I'm coming back in a
friends.
couple hours.
I'll be back. Go tell them. Oh, how awesome, though. What an experience.
It'd be so much fun.
Yes, it would.
One day we'll all have to go there. And
That's
to
the
go
hope.
to all the cool places now that we've learned about this one.
Yeah.
Right?
So one last interesting little factoid before we go.
Okay.
Loch Lomond also has a monster.
Yeah, like Nessie.
Yes.
Ooh.
It's like Nessie's cousin. You don't
Shall
ever
I-
hear about it.
Should I bring it frozen pizza and fish sticks?
Yes. That'd be a
What the
really
heck?
good idea.
Oh, you weren't here for that episode.
No.
For anybody else wondering, you got to go look back a few episodes ago.
The Luska.
Yeah.
I probably was part of that, but I don't remember.
No, you weren't.
You weren't.
Okay.
So everybody, if you've stayed at this inn,
The Drovers Inn.
at the Drovers Inn, if you've stayed there and had an experience, let us know.
We'd love to hear it.
Yeah. Would love to hear your guys' experiences there.
And if you've worked there, or if you do work there, and you want to give me a second shot, I'm in.
Reach out.
Right? We'll go back and we will gladly come back and investigate.
Well, she'll go back and investigate. We'll go there for the first time.
Yes.
And investigate.
We'll go for the first time. It'd be a lot of fun.
It would be amazing.
Yeah, I'd love it. And as always, stay ghosty, my peeps.
Hello, I'm Kona Gallagher.
And I'm Ethan Flick.
We're the husband and wife team behind the True Crime Podcast, And Then They Were Gone.
We're a weekly show that covers unsolved missing persons cases. These are cases that you, the listener, can have an impact on.
Some of the people you may have heard of, like Kristen Smart or Braceless Pisa. But we also bring you missing people of color and other cases that haven't gotten the mainstream attention that they deserve. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or your favorite podcast app.
Thank you for listening to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. You can find us on social media at Twitter at CPR Paranormal, on Facebook at Paranormal Peeps Podcast and Cold Spot Paranormal Research. And you can find us on Instagram at coldspot_paranormal_research.